Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogantz. We have a new guest today, Ishel Brimhall, who has been contributing to AOEU in a variety of ways lately. You can see some of her articles on the website. She's done some art making that you can find on Instagram and the recording on YouTube. And now she's going to be joining us on the podcast. One of her articles just published yesterday, and for me, it was a topic that was really interesting. The article is called 3 Ways to Incorporate Theater Techniques in Your Art Room. I am not a theater person, but I appreciate all of the theater kids who have come through my art room, and they have talents that are very foreign to me. But I love having them, and I love thinking about how a lot of those techniques, a lot of those ideas from theater can be incorporated into our teaching and what we do in our classrooms. And like I said, the article that Ishel put together has some cool ideas that I think are worth talking about, and that's what we're going to do today. So let me welcome on Ishel now. All right, Ishel Brimhall is joining me now for the first time. Ishel, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. Hello. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. We are thrilled to have you here. I guess to start, since you haven't been on the show before, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and about your teaching?
Absolutely. First of all, this is my very first podcast ever.
Yes.
It's
yes,
so
that's
exciting. It's a new experience. And I hope to do more. This is already so nice and cozy and fun.
Love it.
So my name is Ishel. I'm an elementary school art teacher. I am originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia, on the East Coast. And currently, though, I work in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I work at an arts academy where my elementary students get art, music, and STEAM classes multiple times a week. So I'm currently full-time there, and I teach about 300 students or so. And a major part of my job is integration. So I do a lot of integrating of all of the arts as well as every aspect of my students' curriculum in our projects.
That's awesome. That sounds like a great position. It sounds really interesting, really good for the kids. So love all of that. Now I wanted to have you on today. You wrote a great article about theater and just sort of how different theater exercises, different ideas from theater can get kids moving, and how you can, like you said, integrate some of those ideas into the art room. But before we dive into that too much, can you maybe just talk about your own experience with theater and maybe like what kind of skills overlap between what you used to do as, a quote unquote theater kid and like what you do now as a teacher?
Theater kid. I love that. Were you also a theater kid?
I was not a theater kid, but
were you a music kid?
I was a music and art kid.
Okay.
And then like once I got to teaching high school, and like those sort of, I don't know if you want to call them cliques, but like those names still existed. Like everybody is still like, however many years on, we still have our theater kids and our band kids and whatever else.
Yes. The band kids. Theater kids are always friends with the band kids though.
Yeah,
I always felt that there was some camaraderie there. That everyone hated both of us. No. When I was just a kid, I've always been very, very extroverted and enthusiastic, or as my siblings and parents call it, very dramatic. And so I definitely was always very pulled towards movies and acting and pretending something is different when it's not. So I remember being in theater camps when I was young, like as a kid. But then in high school, I was in plays and a musical for our high school theater production. And then I kind of got into dance a little bit more. I was one of the main dancers in the production, and I just loved
Mhm.
it. So I did a lot of dancing, but I felt as though dance and theater and visual arts have always kind of been intertwined together. So that's my
Yeah.
theater kid background.
No, I like it. And I think, you're talking about dance and movement and all of that sort of stuff. One of the
Mhm.
ideas in your article, what I thought was really good, was when you talked about getting kids up and moving, like getting them active with posing for figure drawing. And so I guess two-part question, like why is that so interesting for kids? Like why is that so good for them to get up and get active and get posing? And then also, like after you do those figure drawing poses, what kind of artworks are you doing after that? Like what kinds of things can be developed after those figure drawings?
I love that question. So the first part, let's see, moving your body. These theater techniques, I really see them as getting kids out of their chairs and kind of out of their heads a little bit and just more into their bodies. So in my article, I talk about how moving really wakes up the brain, which wakes up the rest of our entire nervous system and the whole body. And I think I link an article or some academic research in my article that talks about how little children can't sit for very long lectures. That's very difficult for them.
Yes,
I think
yes.
it's difficult for adults too.
I would agree with that, to be
I
honest.
don't
Yeah.
think anyone likes to sit for long stretches of time and just be sitting there. So kinesthetic movement is very beneficial, especially for little learners. And I also think that moving your body can create muscle memory. And if you're creating muscle memory in connection to information, it'll help you retain that information for a longer period of time, which is great for learning, which is what we want all of our students to be doing in school is deep learning.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
getting up and moving in during like a figure drawing lesson, for example, this is a fun one that I love to do with my students. They stand up out of their chair, they make a big pose with their whole body, and we have to do a gesture drawing of their pose. For me, this teaches a lot of things, which I can talk about later. But one of the big ones is for me, this inspires my students to use movement in their art later on. So whether or not we do anything with the gesture drawings that they make, usually they just end up in our sketchbooks. They're nice to look at. It's a good
Hmm.
exercise. But in the future, in their later art projects, they might be drawing a pose of a self portrait. And instead of drawing their portrait head on straight across or totally to the side like an
Right,
Egyptian, profile
right.
drawing, they might decide instead, oh, I remember this project where we moved around. Maybe I'll have my arm up, or maybe I'll
Yeah.
I'll choose a different expressive pose to add movement into my artwork later. Something like that.
No, I like that a lot. They're being dramatic, just like you would want them to be, right? Like
Exactly.
those more dramatic poses. And I was just gonna share too. I used to do something similar with my elementary school kids way back when I taught elementary. We would do those gesture drawings. I usually brought in
Hmm.
like sports equipment because kids felt a little more natural. But
Oh,
I think I
wow.
like the theater idea better, just dramatic poses. But nevertheless, I would do gesture drawing, and then we would look at Keith Haring's stuff and try and get
Hmm.
like just simplified figures doing actions and things like that. And that was always fun. But I love
He
the
has
idea
tons of
of
movement
yeah.
in his
But
art.
I love the idea of just thinking about movement, thinking about better poses, more dramatic poses, and like how that can continue on throughout the year. So anyway, thank you. That gives me a lot to consider,
The
a lot to think
Well,
about.
the sports idea is fantastic. Did you bring in footballs and like a golf club or
Yeah,
like a
just
baseball bat?
whatever crap was sitting around my garage, and then
You
my
just grabbed
kids
it.
could just pick whatever they had and do like a sports pose. So yeah, that
That's
was
so
that was always
interesting.
fun.
in our classes, we would have a student stand up and we would tell them a pose. And a lot of
Okay.
the times it was pretend you're a hockey player or
Oh,
pretend
nice.
because
Yeah.
in sport, I mean, sport makes movement cool for a lot of
Yeah.
my students who think dance
Absolutely.
is silly. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That's a great connection.
Okay, cool. See, I love this. We're brainstorming. We're coming up with new ideas
We're
here. This
making a
is
new
good
lesson
stuff.
right now. Let me
Yes.
write this all down.
Exactly. Okay, another idea that you had in your article that I thought was really cool, kind of intrigued me, was the artist monologue. So, can you explain
Hmm.
for everybody, what that is and what your kids learn from doing artist monologues?
Absolutely. So the artist monologue, I talk about it in my article. I definitely did not come up with this great idea. It's been around since I was in elementary school. And basically, you create a short or however long you want it to be monologue that tells a little story, a little background information about a chosen artist. So for my students, I give them a very long list of all different types of artists. I even tell them if you find an artist that you like, go ahead and research them and bring in
Hmm.
information. But with my list, I kind of have it on a PowerPoint so they can easily get
Yeah.
some ideas.
Yeah.
So they choose an artist and they have to they have to research 5 facts and hand write them on some paper. They have to rehearse saying these facts to themselves or in a group. They have to stand, or I ask there's some adaptations, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but they usually stand up in front of the class or a group or just me and present as if they were this artist. So they can be Van Gogh, or they are Frida Kahlo and telling us about her life in Mexico, or they're Yayoi Kusama and explaining how she gets inspired to make all of her billions of polka dots on her art pieces. It's very fun to see young students stand how they think this artist would stand or
Okay.
sit. Sometimes they choose to sit if they're maybe an older artist. Sometimes they even collect things around the art room, like can I borrow this paintbrush, or can I hurry and make a mini painting that looks like their art
Oh,
to be
yeah.
as a prop. I love seeing that creativity kind of those juices flowing after they've done their research. But this exercise plays a lot with body language is a big one.
Hmm.
Facial expressions. I tell them they're not a robot.
Right.
They're almost in a wax museum, and we even have done it before where we make a red button and we press it, and then they come alive and
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
talking to us, and then they kind of the lights dim and they go back to their pose. I mean,
Nice.
some of the students will really go far with it. Some of them walk around the room. They interact with students. It can get really fun.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I like a lot of those ideas, and yeah, I'm sure you have some good coaching, some good ideas for them when they are talking about that. Which I also want to chat about in a little bit, but
Yeah.
I keep thinking about just sort of your job integrating all these different subjects together, and it seems to me like there are a lot of connections between visual and performing arts. I mean, we all know they're there, but I guess like where do you see those connections? Like you have experience in theater, you have experience in art. Like, what kinds of valuable connections do you see? And like, how can you encourage those as you're developing lessons, as you're teaching kids? And I guess I have lots of questions here, but like, how do you
I
help your
love it.
kids? Like, how do you help your students see those connections as well?
Absolutely. This is definitely, I mean, the goal of every teacher to have their students come to that connection on their own or facilitate the path to get them to say, "Oh, I get it. Like this makes sense in here and in this." So one thing I love to do in collaboration with my music and STEAM teacher is we like to pick 3 or 4 words that have meaning in art, science, engineering, and music,
Yeah.
and theater and dance. And so some of those words are collaboration or observation or layering was even one, or composition, where in engineering, they talked about how do you compose a blueprint. In music, you compose a song. In dance, you choreograph and compose an entire dance. And then in art, composition is the way that everything is laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like to find these words that can kind of overlap and just bring a literary connection, I guess, between all of the arts.
Yeah.
But I feel as though that leads students into finding other connections. So a big one I see between visual arts and theater is observation. I talk about this a lot with my students. I talk about the importance of observing and sitting and watching and catching on to things that some other people might not notice about a painting or a sculpture. And I see that as the same with theater. The way that actors and actresses learn is by observation, picking up on small emotional inflections that other people might not notice, choosing to make specific choices at a certain time. I mean, that's creativity, which blends between all of these things together. There's a lot of fun connections you can make and create with drama and theater and the visual arts.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love all of those ideas and love that advice. I think that's a great. I really appreciate, anytime kids can pick up on like the subtleties of things and really appreciate, beyond the base level. And I love that you have kids, like actively looking for that. One last question for you. Just thinking about all of these theater things, and how you can bring them into your classroom. So I guess last question would be like, what is your advice for working with kids who, are introverted or shy or, don't want to get up in front of the class for an artist monologue?
Right.
These are kids who probably aren't ever going to be a theater kid, or, not gonna love like getting up in front of people. But, what can you tell them or what can you show them or teach them to help kind of calm their fears, get them in front of people, kind of ease their anxiety when they are giving a presentation or talking in front of a crowd?
Absolutely. This is something that even as an extroverted and ready to perform child, I definitely felt, the same anxiety and nervousness and a little bit of discomfort when it was my turn to present something all alone in front of a class or even a group. It can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think very good teachers are good at managing emotions and picking up on small things like a student's discomfort or a little bit of sensing that they're feeling a little bit of stress. So I think that there are so many ways you can either prevent this or you can assist and adapt the lesson to fit their needs. So one way that I love to do is having students present with one partner. So there's two students in a pair. They present to each other. They're laughing a little bit. They're giggling because it's so funny. And this is a fun activity.
Yeah.
I'm speaking directly about the monologue.
Right.
And then once we go from there, if they're comfortable, I ask them to morph into another group. So they connect with another group. And now there's 4. And now the students can present in front of 3 people. And they always clap. And we talk about saying kind things like bravo and like encore, to boost our confidence.
Yeah.
And at first, I think the students are like, oh, this is silly, but they love cheering for their friends because they know when it's their turn, they'll receive the same excitement and enthusiasm back. So once we get to 4 students, sometimes I end the lesson there and I say, good job presenting to all your peers, but I do have them present to the teacher, just so I can kind of check off their rubric and enjoy what they have to say.
Yeah.
But sometimes students feel very confident after they've just done it 2 times. And this time was a group of 4, so they could probably do it in front of a group of 8. So then we morph again, and the groups just keep growing until we've reached either 2 groups of 15 kids or less than that, or we just decide to kind of do a all call. Everyone will share. And at this point with the whole class, I usually just ask whoever is comfortable and excited to present, go ahead. The floor is yours. Take it. But if not, like, be prepared to be an enthusiastic audience member, which is just as important as presenting in front of everyone. Now, there are some other things, like if a student has a physical barrier or perhaps a learning disability that doesn't allow them to do the same exact monologue the same way as every other student. So what we've done in the past is to help these students, we have a partner go up with them. Or sometimes we've done the student in the middle with two students on the side, kind of acting out the scene, or maybe they're the backup characters in a way to the story. And that can create a lot of, that can calm the students' fear about being up there alone. They're almost the narrator at that point, and the other students are taking the most of the attention. I do other things, like I have them perform at their desk if they don't want to move away from their chair. We sometimes film. I have them come in the hall and we film them doing their monologue, and then I show it as a video. A lot of students love that option because it's easy to present in front of one person, but then everyone gets to see your movie.
And you still get to be on the big screen.
On the big projector screen. That is so right. So no matter what way or variety they want to present, I always do try and encourage students to get out of whatever is the circle of their comfort zone. Try and step out of that just for a little bit. And you'll always be able to come back to your desk or your partner. But I think it's important to encourage students to stand up and present.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's great advice. A lot of great ideas there for, like you said, getting kids a little bit outside of their comfort zone, but really still helping them to find some success. So, all right, well, Ishel, thank you so much for everything with this conversation. It's been awesome talking to you. It's been a great article, and we will make sure that we link everybody to that so they can check it out.
Thank you. I have had so much fun. I love this. Podcasts are great.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back on again soon. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. That was an excellent conversation that I really enjoyed. We'll have to invite Ishel back on the podcast again. I appreciate her ideas and strategies and suggestions that she shared, throughout the discussion today. Like I said, she has a lot of good articles on tap, and you'll be able to see those on the site in the coming months as they get published. Now, if you're interested in more ideas having to do with theater or drama, and you're interested in going deep into the archives with the Art of Ed, I have an article from way back, I think 2014, that I wrote about something called the Drama Notebook. It's an old one, but it's a fun read, and there's still some good ideas in there. So we'll link to that in the show notes if you're interested in digging it up. And more importantly, we'll link to Ishel's more current, more relevant article as well, so you can find that. But I think that will do it for us today. I appreciate you listening, and we will have some pretty good episodes coming up in the next couple of weeks, so please stay tuned. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you, as always, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.